dates and interviews. The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles, got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of the Bengals recap show with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, coming to you live from the TWSN studios. Make sure you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content, which is daily. So, Daniel, the Bengals finally get in the win column. The Bengals beat the Carolina Panthers. And, as happy as I am for the team for getting the victory, it felt like this one was a little closer than it should have been. It felt like they kind of rested on their laurels at spots and they allowed the Panthers to creep back into the game. I'm almost, of the belief that this team had to learn how to win again. You start 0-3, you lose to teams like the New England Patriots, you lose to teams like the Chiefs, you lose to teams like the Commanders in an embarrassing fashion. You had to learn how to win again. But let me be clear. I was not too happy with the results in terms of how we made the game a little bit more difficult on ourselves, and I agree with what you're saying, Malcolm Willem, in the comment section. You're saying it doesn't matter how it looked as long as it got the first win. That was the most important thing. And I agree. The first win is so important because things could look drastically different a couple weeks from now. But you got to feel as if you're a team that's, fighting for championship contention, believing that you can become that, you like to put together better results than what you did down the stretch. You sort of let this team get into a rhythm, and I didn't like that too much. But Daniel, what say you? What were your thoughts on the Bengals' week 4 victory over the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of thoughts, to be honest, and I'm excited to get to, discuss these with you guys. I think my biggest thought, and kind of goes with one of the guys, Bill Murray, our guy, was saying. He says it feels like a loss to me. And yes, the Bengals won, but it's still, I don't feel great after it. It's nice to get a win on the board. I don't know. This is just my immediate feeling. I don't feel great. First off, the Trey Hendrickson news, we got to see what happens, right? You got to look at Trey Hendrickson, and hopefully he's okay. But you look at the pass rush, Cedric Johnson looked meh. The pass rush looked meh. The Bengals scraped this one by, and that's what concerns me, right? You went and you look at the score. Yes, it was a 10-score game or a 10-point game, but there was a lot of holes. You look at Cam Taylor-Britt, we'll obviously discuss. He got cooked time and time again. And this Panthers offense at times just looked methodically drove down the field time and time again. Andy Dalton, his first interception was just a great batted pass. But besides that, the dude was playing a very conservative, very consistent game. And like I said, IHP Ron, he said a win is a win. Exactly. I think that's what my biggest takeaway also is. You got to win on the board. And now we discussed this in previous shows. You go into Baltimore, or Baltimore's here, but you go into New York. Those are the next 2 games, and the Baltimore game is the one I'm circling because this is, you're 4 games into the season and you haven't played a divisional opponent yet. So the season is just starting. You're 1-3. You scrape by. And I think another takeaway, you look at the offense finally got rolling. And we'll discuss this a little bit more at length, but this offense is too damn talented not to win. I mean, you look at what Jamar Chase did. He solidified himself for people who, weren't believers. The dude is a top 3, if not one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL. T. Higgins had a great game. And you look at the other weapons. I mean, Yoshi Voss is consistent. The tight ends, Eric All, Mike Gesicki, both guys who I truly believe are upper echelon tight ends. This offense is too damn talented not to succeed. And the blame's going to start to fall on Zach Taylor or even Joe Burrow at times. Burrow looked, hesitant at times. And that's my biggest concern heading into these other teams, heading into the better teams, right? The Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, even these divisional games. So all around, I think there's a lot of positives. My biggest concern is going to be the pass rush moving forward. And quite frankly, and we'll get our guy Parker Blake in here in a second, but another thing that looked good, the offensive line looked damn good. And that's another, biggest takeaway is you look at all the things that they've done the past 2 years. It's finally paying off with the offensive line. So goddamn it, there's no excuse for this team. There isn't. You look at the offensive line. I truly believe in the NFL, you can win with a star quarterback, an offensive line, and preferably a great defensive line. But if you have an offensive line, an elite one, and a star quarterback, you should win, and you should easily win 10 plus games. And that's what you have to rely on in the playoffs, in my opinion. If you have the quarterback on the same page and you have a pass rush, and the Bengals have the offensive line, they're slowly getting the quarterback healthy and getting them ramped up. The biggest concern, I think, the thing that could stop this Bengals team from making a playoff push is the pass rush. And we'll discuss it more, but that's honestly what concerns me. So we'll see how long Trey's out. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to hope that Trey Hendrickson injury isn't something that's going to linger for the remainder of the season or for a large portion of it, because you talk about, a guy that gives you consistent pass rush, that puts fear in opposing offensive coordinators and opposing left tackles. That's what Trey Hendrickson does for you. And so you hope that guy is able to get back. Obviously, health is the main priority, but, very, very hopeful that it was just a stinger. I know it was a neck injury, and it looked a little scary when it happened for the length of time that he was down. But, hoping for the best. Trey is definitely a friend of Daniel and ours. But again, this is a big win for the Bengals, because it's not like getting your first. I say, there were times where I felt like they could have, rolled over at points, right, and let the Carolina Panthers complete the comeback that seemed very, very likely was going to happen at points. But they were able to keep their heads about themselves and figure out a way to kind of close this game out. We're going to dive more deep into this game. I'm joined live right now by my brother from New Jersey. Two of my guys from New Jersey, actually. Noah's just, I feel for him. Noah's a Jets fan. Those Jets had a tough loss today, but they're joining me on the recap show, man. Cole's a huge Bengals fan. Cole, what were your thoughts on the game before we get Parker Blake in here?
Yeah. First, thank you for even allowing me to be on this show. It's a pleasure. But I agree. I mean, it's just, I feel like the offense, I think we're going to see it a lot more in the next game. We have so much talent around this team, and having our offensive line also being kind of a strong point within this game shows a lot of, I think, just like lots of good points for moving on to the, future and future games. But I also believe that it's just, I think we need to give the ball a little bit more. Chase Brown, bright spot on defense, Chris Jenkins, shout out to Chris, stopping the run as much as possible, as much as he could, making stops in the backfield as well. I think there's a lot of, bright spots, but it feels like this win, it does feel a little bit of like a loss. So it's really just, I mean, I knew we had to kind of get that, that pressure off our back a little bit, but I'm just looking forward to this next game, because this will show a little bit more of our weaknesses on both sides of the ball, but also some bright spots on the offense. So
yeah, I definitely think there were some things that you're hopeful that the Bengals can sort of build upon. I still got a major problem, man, and I'm going to talk more about this with Parker Blake when he jumps on the show. I've got some thoughts on personnel still, especially in the red zone. The not getting a guy like Mike Gesicki involved in the game, why he isn't a prominent figure or prominent person in the game, it is very interesting to me. Obviously, you could point to the play where he lost yardage and he was thrown outside of, but I feel like that's a guy that you have to allow to gain rhythm into the game. I feel like if you don't, it's going to be a point in time where, you're making things a lot more difficult on yourself, right? Making things a lot more difficult on yourself. And we're watching this game together, and I'm a person where I don't like to really react during games, but that was very, very infuriating at points to see how that sort of played out. But you know what? I want to get my guy, Parker Blake, TWSN analyst, in here for the discussion. So without further ado, Parker, what's going on, man?
How you doing, fellas? How you doing?
Well, we're doing a lot better, man. We're doing a lot better. The Bengals won. The Bengals won today, right? So we have some positives to talk about versus the negatives. There are certainly negatives we could take away from this game. There were unfortunate reasons as to why the Panthers were having so much success against us, namely a certain defensive back that seemed to struggle a lot in coverage out there. But I don't want to pin it on just one guy. There were some other reasons as to why the Panthers were able to make this a game. But Parker, I wanted to get your overall thoughts on the game, how the Bengals played, and how do you feel about this Bengals team moving forward?
Yeah, no, I mean, the defensive back end feels like it has struggles all across the board, right? Like you're seeing Von Bell go for rides on the back of running backs. You're seeing, we all saw the Cam Taylor-Britt issues that were going around.
Yeah.
There was Geno Stone that felt like he was out of place at times. I feel like Pratt's a guy that's he's just a roller coaster, right? Like he's going to get some awesome plays. He's going to, have some terrible plays out there. And it's just, overall, it just feels inconsistent. But I do like how this offense feels like it's come together, right? It feels like they have all the right pieces. It feels like this offensive line actually doesn't, suck finally. It took a while to get there, but it feels like it looked really good. It's looked really good this season. I still, the red zone stuff kills me, man. This low red zone 2-point conversion style stuff just doesn't make any sense to me. And that's something that I think we're just going to have to deal with for the rest of the season. I don't think it's going to get any better. I don't see them changing that. And I think the same goes for like end of game management. It felt like they came out, they got that first score of the second half, and then just kind of hope that the clock would just keep running for them. There wasn't really any urgency. You have to see, the coffin nails go down. You'd like to see a little bit of aggression with that much time left on the clock for a couple of drives. And it feels like they really just stalled. They didn't really do much offensively for the majority of the second half of the game. Mm-hmm. So those are things that it's frustrating to see. And you'd like to see us be a much cleaner win. But overall, it was a fun game, man. The team looks good. Good. They have the issues that we know they have, but it's kind of where it's at.
So I want to ask you a question. When we look at the offense, right? Obviously, the offensive line looked great. I want to get your takeaway on two things. First off, the offensive line, go into depth, even because in my opinion, we were all discussing this, Cole, everybody here. We were looking at it, and there's times where Parker, it was like Burrow had all day to throw, and he goes, stares down a receiver, check down, or gets happy feet, throws the ball away. So what was your takeaway on that? And, whether it's the offensive line, how good they looked, and also, do you believe like Burrow's having happy feet? What do you think it is right now?
Yeah, no, it still feels like he's getting jittery in the pocket. It's like he's got the yips at times where he just gets a little impatient. I don't know if it is really just the PTSD internal clock that he still has or what it is. Like even on that, the crazy scramble for the nice gain that he had where he felt like he was running around for 20 minutes back there. I mean, he didn't really have a reason to get jumpy as early as he did in that play. And so, I mean, Burrow's still making it happen. That's always good to see, but I just would like to see him settle down. I feel like, week over week, he's getting much more calm in the pocket, but I do wonder, and that's why I love watching the All-22, why he's just getting down to these, what feels like second and third, shorter options so often. Is it just that the coverage is so good downfield that the defenses are doing that good of a job keeping the top on this offense? Or is it just him still being sped up or just winning the safer options and not being as risky as he might have been in the past? I know that was one of my issues coming out of the first couple of games where it just felt like he wasn't throwing some of the shots that he has in the past and has succeeded with in the past. Especially, I mean, you had that miss to Jamar going towards the sideline that just felt uncharacteristic. There's just it's a lot of weirdness in Joe Burrow's game right now. I don't really know what is causing that.
I would agree. And I think definitely looking at it, there were a couple moments, whether it was we were all discussing the Gesicki on the goal line, wide open, he was staring down Jamar, or even another time, I believe it was third down, but T. Higgins running down the left side and he just stared him down the whole way, threw it into double coverage, out of bounds. But there was a guy, I think it was Jamar, open over the middle of the field. So I'm with you. And another question I got for you, Parker, is, what are your takeaways from this game, right? How do you feel, 1-3, heading, got a couple key games upcoming. What's your overall takeaways and your feelings about the Bengals season after this game?
Yeah, I think this Giants game is going to be a fun test. I think it's an underrated defense. I think they have a lot of great things. I know we talked about that on the show last week, but I think this Giants defense is a much bigger test than people give it credit for. Mm-hmm. I'm not as worried about the offense, but I mean, after seeing how the defensive back end looked today, I mean, if Malik Wright was able to come back, I don't know what the latest update on that injury was coming out of the game. What was that, Thursday? So we'll see if he's able to be active. But if he is, I feel like he's going to cause massive issues for the Bengals on the defensive side of the ball. So I think looking down the stretch again, I am excited to see them against, these AFC North defenses, especially up front. I think the offensive lines are really good, but they haven't really seen a ton of crazy talent. They haven't seen a lot of talented defensive play so far. They've seen, a good player here and there, some good spot guys, but this offense really hasn't been tested, which is, I think, what, fans were hoping for going into the season. They could kind of get off to an easier start. You have the Chiefs game in there, but some teams that you can kind of warm up against, using the first 4 games as the preseason, as the Bengals do. Yeah. But I think that's the biggest thing for me looking down the road is how are they going to handle these better defenses, and then how is this defense going to hold up? I'm excited to finally get hopefully some bodies back over the next couple of weeks. I think that's what the timetable is. I know Miles Murphy's going to be back next week off of IR, so that'll be a big addition. Especially we'll see what happens with Trey, but that's the biggest thing for me right now is how they're going to handle just better competition.
I agree, Parker. And want to remind you all, do us a huge favor. Give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content. We have a little bit of technical difficulty right now. So, Danny, I'll let you take it away.
No, you're good. And Parker, I just kind of want to go back to you and look at, the rest of this game. And even a guy like Chris Jenkins, right? What was your overall thoughts on, how Chris Jenkins played?
Yeah, no, I think he's looked really good through the couple of games that he's played with the club. I got excited when I thought the one-handed man was going to take that screen to the house. Ended up just being a knockdown, I believe, in the backfield. But I think he's looked really good. He's providing the force in the run game that not only the Bengals need, but I think that they hope that he would bring. He's done a lot more in as far as a pass rusher than I anticipated. I kind of saw him as more of a run stuffer, but he's able to really push the pocket well, and I'm excited to see him develop, especially once he gets his left hand back.
Completely. And just overall, I think Chris Jenkins was somebody that, really had a good game. And even when you look at the rest of the team, so I want to kind of ask you, look at the rest of the weapons on offense. I'm kind of curious, what's your thoughts on, how T. Higgins played, Mike Gesicki, and even a guy like Eric All?
Yeah, Eric All, feels like he's one of Joe Burrow's favorite targets right now. Outside of the running back room that he keeps checking down to. But I think Eric All is really carving out a nice role for himself. I think, like I said, a couple weeks ago that he was going to be getting tight end 1 volume by the end of the season. I think it's going to happen a lot sooner at this rate. I felt like he was kind of tight end 1 in this game, while Gesicki was more of a, outlet option. You had Sample in there being, I think, mostly a blocker. I think he got a couple targets, but it feels like All is turning into the tight end 1 of this Bengals team, and that's really exciting looking forward. I know he had a lot of concerns with his draft profile and then coming into the season, but I think he's really just outperformed all of everyone's expectations so far, and I'm excited to see how they're going to be able to utilize him down the stretch.
So Parker, I switched spots. A little technical difficulties going on.
I like it.
So part of this business, you got to be willing to do things on the fly, if you will. But I guess I wanted to talk to you more. What were your overall thoughts on the defensive line's pressure, or I guess one thing we kind of talked about, I guess, going into this game was the Bengals would need to simulate pressure. The Bengals need to simulate pressure to make life a little bit more easier for the guys on the back end. I thought that they did some good stuff today, personally. I liked seeing them get, Mike Hilton, Akeem Davis Gaither, other guys involved in the pass rush department. And those are some of the things that you sort of need to do, if things are going a little haywire, or if you feel like you need a little extra juice. And I feel like they had the perfect dance partner. I feel like they had the perfect dance partner. And what I mean by that is a guy like Andy Dalton is a guy that, essentially, if you allow him to sit back and be a pocket passer, he's going to chew you apart. He's going to make life hell for you. But guess what? If you're able to get pressure on him, get him off his platform, at the end of the day, it's something that I felt like this Bengals team would need to do if they were going to have a little bit of success. And I was really, really impressed with their ability to simulate pressure and make life hell for them. I thought they did some good things today. I thought there was some good learning experiences for some guys in there. But I want to get your overall thoughts. What was your thoughts on, the Bengals' ability to kind of heat Andy Dalton up or sort of rush up his mental processing at points?
Yeah, no, with a guy like Andy Dalton, you got to keep him uncomfortable, right? You got to make sure that picture's changing. You got to make sure he has to process more than he's comfortable processing. I thought, especially, I think they showed a lot of mug looks from their linebackers this week, and we saw Pratt almost get the interception off of one of those looks, and I just think that was the best this was a great reset week for this defense. They're able to come out and show some more exotic stuff. I thought the pass rush still looked stale at times where, well, as far as post snap goes, we're bringing 4, or I didn't think they brought a lot of pressures and stunts after the snap. I know we saw a few guys get involved throughout the game, but it wasn't a very consistent thing. I like to see them do that more, especially with the lack of depth that they're dealing with right now on the defensive line. But I think it was definitely a step in the right direction. Again, like you brought up, showing those looks and handling that properly. Again, I wish it had a better impact on the back end of the defense. It still felt like they struggled getting pressure. I felt like Dalton, after a couple seconds in the pocket, was still kind of just able to sit in place and try and read through the defense. And you like to see better interior pressure. That's what I'm really hoping to see coming down the stretch. And that's why I personally would still like to see more stunts in games with those 4 defensive linemen, trying to get some of these better rushers free, or get a guy like Sam Hubbard, who I think would, really excel as an interior defensive lineman at this point.
Yes.
Being able to run around free and run through interior offensive linemen. So that's still something I'm hoping to see. Can't say I have high hopes to see it, but I did like seeing the different looks that they were able to roll out today. And I think it helped a lot.
Here's a question I have for you. You look at Cam Taylor-Britt. A lot of people out there are pretty pissed about the performance of Cam Taylor-Britt this year. It seemed like Andy Dalton made it up in his mind before the game that Cam Taylor-Britt's going to be a guy that not only am I going to target, but I'm going to abuse on a regular basis. I'm really, really curious to hear what your thoughts were on the performance or lack thereof of a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt, who came in with a lot of offseason hype, who certainly likes to chirp a lot. What were your thoughts, though, on his performance today?
Yeah, no, I think, defensive backs like to chirp a lot. So I think, that's one of those things where you're going to get guys that are more, extroverted that are just going to do that. I think people sometimes will take that a little, too personal, too seriously. I kind of like seeing that energy and emotion out of your defense. It's one of the things that I love that this Bengals defense is usually able to have pretty consistently. Overall, it did feel like they saw something during film review during the week. The Panthers did that. They felt like they could target Cam Taylor-Britt, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he also didn't have a lot of support over the top, which is why I'm excited to get to the All-22 and see. I know there's been issues in previous weeks this season where it felt like he kind of had a shorter zone, and he was just kind of trying to do too much to make up for the lack of ability behind him in his own mind. And that put him into some dangerous spots. And so I'm wondering how much today was just him trying to do too much and just wasn't able to keep up with these Panthers receivers, which are, I think, underrated. I think Xavier Leggett's a guy that I really like coming out of the draft cycle. I think Deontay Johnson's a guy that the Bengals have seen before. And I mean, he's not a bad receiver. He's a great route runner. There's a lot that went on, and I'd be interested to see just on the All-22 how it looks. But, from the broadcast during the live game, it looked like a rough day for CTB, and I just feel like he's a better corner than he showed today. And it could have just been sometimes you just have a bad game, and I felt like today was one of those days. But it was interesting to see the Panthers, kind of come after him early. I wonder what they saw on film.
I agree with you, Parker. Well, Parker, I don't want to take up too much of your afternoon, my man. You and me, we talked about finally having you on the show live for a recap, man. Quick last, I would say, couple of words you'd give the fan base after today's performance. What is something that they can cling to for the Bengals' next game against the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, I gotta stick to my offensive line roots. This offensive line looks great. I think Cordell Volson looks good. I know he had a couple holding penalties. One of them that I'd put more on the running back than Cordell Volson, but that is what it is. I know Orlando Brown came out with one today too. I know Mims, I worried about him early on. I worried about his slower feet and his ability to redirect, but I think he showed a lot of promise today. I know he gave up a couple pressures, but I think overall this unit's going to look good down the stretch. That's what you're going to need in an AFC North, where you're going to want to try to win all 6 games, really win the division, get that good playoff seeding. And so I'm looking forward to how this group's going to compete down the stretch. And I think that's just one thing I'm going to be able to hold on to all season is Joe Burrow is going to have time to throw. And we all said, for how long now, if you give Joe Burrow time to throw, it's just that's the kiss of death for other teams. So I'm excited to see it happen.
Now, Parker, I'd be wrong if I didn't, say this before you left out here. God, family, and nothing but the Tide. How about Alabama, man? How about that?
Roll Tide, roll, baby.
Roll Tide, roll. What a game yesterday, right? Ryan Williams changing his profile picture to Michael Vick holding a dog is insane, is nuts. But, it's everything that we talked about. I know you and me will be back live together again on Tuesday, talking this whole thing through. So I'll reserve what I have to say about Alabama looking like Alabama. I'll reserve what I have to say about Kalen DeBoer having a standout game from a coaching standpoint that, let's be honest, he needed it. For now, we'll keep it to Bengals and we'll say this. Who dey, brother? It was an absolute good game for the Bengals. Could have, I guess, ended the game a lot stronger than they started, but a win is a win. They got out of Carolina with a win. So, yeah, man. Tuesday, we'll jump back on the show. Tuesday, we'll talk things through. But, Parker, enjoy this win, man. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. I appreciate you, brother.
Always a pleasure, brother. And who day? I'll see you all on Tuesday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is Parker Blake, TWSN analyst here. Park, we appreciate you so much for always joining in on the discussion. I want to continue to talk with Daniel and my guy Cole about the Bengals game here today. What were some areas outside of obviously the play of a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt? Were there any areas of concern for you guys where you're like, all right, if we're going up against maybe a better team with a better quarterback, that might cause us to stress a little bit more? What were some areas of concern for you? Cole, we'll start with you, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd probably say right now, I mean, I feel like our secondary, our defensive line, our linebackers, I think our linebackers have been pretty much consistent for the whole, pretty much this game and the whole year. But we have to get our communication down. Yeah. I think between our secondary and our defensive line, get pressures, help out both areas, because that'll also give us a little bit more, it'll give us less time on the field with our defense. Our offense will get a little bit more opportunities as well. And then I think, what we're going back to, offense too, or just defense?
Or both. It could be in either.
Okay, for offense as well, I think we have to continue with the run game. Give Chase Brown the ball.
Yes.
On 1st and 10, Chase Brown will give you 8 yards, 9 yards right off the bat. And I think a lot of our problems we have is having 4 and outs or 3 and outs, So I think it's really just giving our opportunity to our offense and our offensive line to really protect Joe and give it a ride to our Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. We have too much talent on this team. So that's my 2 cents.
For sure. And I think something that I've got, and I think that it irritated me and it infuriated me. And it feels like this is the common theme of the Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, pairing right now is it does look lethargic with a lead. And there have been times, I think, and they've gotten kind of comfortable with when these games, they have a 1-score lead, they have a 2-score lead. They do very well normally running that, that Tom Brady-esque thing of, hey, we're going to drain the clock the final 7 minutes. But there's been times, and I think, to your point, Cole, about the 3 and outs, I think that's a common trend with this team. And that's what concerns me, right? And that's when I project into the future, hey, how are you playing with the lead? They did good, with at points in the Chiefs game, but even look at that game when Joe Burrow fumbled, they had that game in their hands. So I think that's one of my biggest concerns, whether that's, play calling or even going back to Joe Burrow on him not pushing the ball down the field when they are up 2 scores. And that's what concerns me. So I think all around that's probably my biggest concern, because that's not something that, has been happening just this season. So when I look at the Bengals and how do you get back into the playoff picture, how do you project yourself deep into the playoffs? You got to play with the lead at times, and you could lose this season very quickly. If this wasn't a team like the Panthers could have came back and won this game. And the Bengals got the win, but all around, I think that's probably my biggest concern right now. But something we've always said, right? Great quarterbacking, can overcome bad coaching. And we've got to see that
Malik
from
Wright.
At Malik Wright, quoted from Malik Wright many, many, many times.
Unless your name is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, no, this is fair. But I mean, quite frankly, to be honest, he hasn't even looked great. And I think that's what the season's going to come down to. Can Joe Burrow consistently play great? And it remains to be seen. He's looked good the past couple of weeks, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. So that's what concerns me. And also, we've got a lot of people talking about the defense. The defensive line, the pass rush, that's probably the next greatest point of emphasis for me.
So one thing I'll say before Cole jumps back in here, I'll say Chris Jenkins needs to be on the field more. That's one thing that I've realized. Mike Gesicki needs to be on the field more. That's something I realized. Chase Brown needs to be the starting running back consistently. That's something that I realized.
Preach.
Find a way to get guys like Jermaine Burton on the field as well. You need to utilize your weapons. Use them to the best of your ability. And last big takeaway is the Bengals found their punter for the franchise in Ryan Rico. That dude is a magician. That guy is the answer. I don't know what the future holds for a guy like Brad Robbins, but it sure as hell ain't here in Cincinnati, nor should it be. Ryan Rico looks like the guy. We saw him hit an 80-yard punt this season. We saw him hit a 67, a 68.
It looks like the best punter in the league.
63. Huh?
It looks like the best punter in the league, quite frankly.
He doesn't look like
no.
he is the best punter in the
Yeah.
league right now. And I think that's something the Bengals should be very, very happy with, especially for the simple fact that this is an area of focus for this team for quite some time. You know, it's a good day when we're talking about punters. Right? It's a goddamn good day. Listen, everybody's excited about this Ravens game coming up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you're not.
Listen, I just, Ravens, AFC North game. Let's go. Good game. Sure. But you're really hopeful that this Bengals team can continue to ride the momentum, the positive momentum, week after week. But, I don't know. I don't really have a strong, I need to see how the Ravens look tonight. I guess it would be wrong if I didn't bring this up. I don't know if you guys got the news, but Rashee Rice,
Looked
like
knee injury, carted off.
It looked pretty bad. Patrick Mahomes threw an interception.
They're down 10-0.
And he tried to get a tackle, and the guy completely swerved out of Mahomes' way, and all of Pat's weight went into Rashee Rice's knee and went the other way. So it doesn't look too good for a guy like Rashee Rice. So we're wishing him obviously a speedy recovery. That'll be a huge blow to this Chiefs team, because that's a guy that does a lot of good things for the Kansas City Chiefs. And you obviously love to see the Kansas City Chiefs versus Bengals matchup, and you want the best to face the best. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? So that, I guess that's a little bit unfortunate, but the Bengals are supposed to be getting guys like Myles Murphy back next week. So you got to feel that the pass rush department will continue to improve. BJ Hill is close to returning. So you got to feel like the pass rush department is getting stronger. There's a lot of good things that happen. Oh, there's another guy that I want to shout out today's game that we did not talk about. DJ Turner.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out to DJ Turner.
Yes,
This
sir.
is a guy that everybody wrote you off and you didn't write back. I was one of those people, because apparently you look like you absolutely stunk in the training camp and all that kind of stuff like that. You went out there today, you pinched your ears back in a spot in which the defensive back room needed it, and you and Dax Hill created almost like a no-fly zone. You guys did your thing out there. I was really, really proud of the return on DJ Turner and the job that guy did, because that guy had a lot of hype coming into this season. A lot of people were expecting him to take that next step. And, he got the opportunity to take that next step today, and he ran with it. There's no locking down Deontay Johnson, but he did as good as a job as he could, right? Against our old friend, Andy Dalton. I don't know if there was any more takeaways that you had, Daniel, for the game, or you had Cole for the game, but whoever wants it, Daniel, how about you go at it?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway also is you do look at the running game, and that's what, I look at Chase Brown. We talked about this, but that dude needs to be on the field more. And I can understand what the thought process is, right? Third down, we need Zach Moss. He's a better blocking back, sure. Chase Brown is just a playmaker. He's the much more explosive back right now. And Zach Moss, yes, he caught the touchdown pass, but I'm a firm believer of, hey, especially in a guy's early career, that's how I look at running backs personally. I say, hey, the first 3 years, respectfully, is the best you're going to get out of them. And Chase Brown last year had a good year, but his usage wasn't crazy. So, goddamn, I need more Chase Brown on the field. And just looking at the rest of the offense, too, I think you just have too much talent, right? Even T. Higgins looked good. And I think he's looked good this entire season that he's been healthy. So, I really just come down to, the fact that this offense has so much talent. You look at the rest of the offenses in the league, one, they're either hurt like the 49ers, or two, they just don't have talent like the Bengals do. Jamar Chase, nobody else makes that play except Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. Nobody else is doing that. And then you got T. Higgins being consistent. You got T. Higgins being your goal, your deep ball guy. I think when I look at this offense, and then I'll hand it off to Cole right here, I want to see them attack the middle of the field more. And I think that's where this offense can reach the next level. That's when we have seen Joe Burrow. Hey, when he was at his MVP level, when he was at his best, when we were talking about this dude being the best quarterback in the NFL, it's when he's constantly attacking the middle of the field, right? He starts off the game, quick passes to Jamar Chase. And I saw some people discussing, quick screens and quick passes. You need that in the NFL. I'm sorry. I'm not going to knock a guy for doing that, but it comes down to, hey, after the first quarter, deep into the first quarter, into the second quarter, do you start attacking all three levels of the field? Burrow has shown his out routes, the outside of the hashes. He's been good. I really want to see him continue to attack the middle of the field. You look at his pass to Yoshivas, amazing. You look at last week's pass. I think he had a seam route to one of the tight ends. That's great. But it can't just be once a game, whether that's the concepts on the field or whether that's Joe Burrow, looking to his outside wide receivers. I feel like the middle of the field, especially with, how they guard Jamar Chase, they do run a cover 2 and they do run the over top safety. So the middle of the field so many times is going to be open. And I think that's going to be the progress of Joe Burrow finally getting back in the rhythm. But I feel like this upcoming week, and when we see Burrow, holy shit, he hit the seam route. Holy shit, he's attacking the middle of the field. That's when I feel like, okay, this offense is at its best, at arguably the best offense in the league. So, Cole, what you got?
Yeah, no doubt. I think with the offense, kind of going to like my point is, I think, this game also kind of figured out a little bit inconsistencies as well.
Yeah.
Of third down conversion, or even what's it called? Kind of like, so with the interception, right? Or
You said an interception?
Interception.
Oh, okay.
I went too fast. I went too fast with it.
I was like, what's the interception?
So yeah, kind of like just like I'm really like, getting points off turnovers and really not focusing on field goals all as much. Really scoring. I think this game also showed that the offense could get into this rhythm.
Yeah.
And to get the 6 points instead of 3 points. And then with the defense, I'm hoping next week we can just get off the field a lot more.
Yeah.
It's too much time on the field. And the inconsistencies, even from Geno Stone, I really like. I mean, we 3 years. How much money did we pay for it?
Yeah.
Decent.
That's a huge investment, and like I'd rather see also Jordan Battle on the field a little bit more.
So
give that man some play time.
So I'll just say this for those that don't know: Jordan Battle was very much used as like the free safety at Alabama. Brian Branch was allowed to be more of the strong safety, the guy in the box, and do a lot of stuff. And Jordan Battle made a lot of plays for us. And I'll say this right here: I'm at the point now, respectfully, where I'd rather see Jordan Battle. If you're gonna keep Von Bell on the field, if he's one of your guys from a communication aspect, and you think that he helps set the tone, I've seen nothing positive from Geno Stone this season so far. I'm wondering now, was he just a product of that Ravens defense and Roquan Smith and all the great defensive players that he had around him? I'm really wondering that at this point, because it looked pretty bad. So for me, hell, I would. This might be controversial to say. If Lou has an issue with Jordan Battle, which I hope he doesn't, put Dejon Anthony back there. Do something different. Something's got to give, man. I've seen enough of Geno Stone constantly in the wrong positioning. And that's crazy. We did a film breakdown on him. We always said this guy is always in the right spot. I'm good off of Geno Stone, man. Through 4 weeks, through a month, and I've seen very little to return. I've seen a guy that does not put it all out there. It seems like put his body on the line to make stops. I don't know, man. I'm not really believing it too much, man. I'm ready to see Jordan Battle, Dejon Anthony. Shit, give me Tyson Anderson. Do something different. Something's got to give, though, but because that guy is not making plays. He is not being what you signed to be. Has he been Nick Scott bad? No, but has he been what you expect him to be? Absolutely not.
And I think one of the concerns with that is he's playing every snap, and that's one of the issues. Is like, what are we doing, right? I'm curious to look at his actual snap count, but it seemed like he's on the field 90 to 100% of the snaps. So that's definitely what concerns me. There's no reason why this dude shouldn't be getting rotated in and out. Apparently, this was a report. Trey Hendrickson's in a sling.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what.
Yeah, I mean, he ran into Sam Hubbard pretty hard. You got to wonder, did that thing dislocate or did it crack or something like that? He was down for quite some time. I thought it was a stinger, honestly,
because he was looking down at his hand as well.
Yeah, I was wondering that, man. Maybe it was all the above. Maybe it was because it was a pretty forcible contact. And like I said, you really hope that guy gets back soon. But I will say, with Miles Murphy expected to return next week, you couldn't ask for a better time,
Mhm.
right? And Cedric Johnson, a guy that's also emerging on the defensive line, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where you're just really, really hoping that this team could put it all together and get this thing off the ground. Those are my initial thoughts. Make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live. We'll be live again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to talk all things NFL, but of course, talk Cincinnati Bengals. Talk Daniel. Let's get to 3 questions before we head out of here for the day.
Of course. So one of the questions I remember some people were asking was, mainly about how the weapons look. So I guess my question to you and what they were saying is, are you guys confident in how they're using their weapons, like T. Higgins, like Mike Gesicki, like Andre Yoshibas, and Jermaine Burton, or would you like to see them change up how they use their weapons?
Cole, you take it, man.
Yeah.
You take it, Cole.
Yeah. This is no.
Yeah.
They need to use them a lot more. I think, freeing up. I mean, especially in today's game, I mean, most of those receptions went to T. Higgins and he, balled out. But that opens up players like Mike Gesicki. That man, his release, he was open most of his routes. And even, what was it? The TD, we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, when he was on the outside and the slant inside, and he was wide open. That's an easy 6 points. We're not using all of our talent, our weapons, as much as we should. And I want to see a little bit more hunger, a little bit more aggression from our offense. Really, if we're up by 7 points at, halftime, take over the game. Take it over. We have Jamar Chase, we have T. Higgins, Jermaine Burton, Yoshibach, everyone. We need to do better, honestly.
All I'm saying is the AFC's opening back up a little bit. Teams that we thought were going to take the next step seem to be taking a step back. Teams that we were thinking like, oh, snap, they might be, juggernauts, or they might be better than we gave them credit for. We saw teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers go down for the first time today. We have the Raiders and the Browns, in a tight matchup. We've got Cowboys versus Bills versus Ravens tonight. We've got some pretty good games on coming up here tonight. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm about to go to Ruth Chris, grab a mac and cheese lobster, and then we're gonna have a nice little night out on town. Then we're gonna come back here, watch the game. Listen, I'm very, very excited to see that game tonight, but I'm also excited to see how the Raiders and the Browns game kind of shakes out, because that game's got me a little fired up. Daniel, let's get to 2 more questions before we head out.
Yeah, we got Henry Ellison had the question about Amarius Mims and said he looks like the future of the offensive line. What was you guys' overall takeaways on how Amarius Mims and the offensive line played?
I thought that they played very, very well. It is so easy to say, this team is bad or that team is bad, that because the offensive line. It's easy to always point to the Bengals offensive line because the offensive line of the Bengals has been an issue for years, but that is not an issue right now. That is not a problem right now. This team's offensive line has played well for the majority of the entire season so far. And I think the early returns on this new offensive line has been really, really positive. So you got to be impressed with what you've seen with a guy like Amarius Mims. To be honest with you, Amarius Mims is a guy that had he had more film in college, he wouldn't have been there for the Bengals to pick. But he was, and the Bengals were able to pick him, and everybody said he's so smooth, he's so great. I still think Joe Burrow's rounding into form. I don't think that he makes life easy on them at times. Like sometimes he has easier options, and it feels like he just kind of complicates things a little bit more, like holding on to the ball. And I'm hoping that his timing will get back to what it usually is sooner rather than later. Hopefully he gets adjusted to having this amount of time in the pocket, because we certainly need Joe Burrow at his best if the Bengals are going to take this next step. But I thought the offensive line looked good.
Yeah, and the final question we have is from Alan. He said, we need our defensive line back healthy for next week. Ravens are a serious run threat. And also somebody else was asking, if the Bengals can't get this corrected, it's going to be a tough week. What's you guys' early takeaways and predictions and thoughts about the Ravens game next week?
I don't even. You can go.
Yeah, kind of going back to your point, I think there needs to be a little bit more rotation on defensive line, especially if we have big injuries to, of course, BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins, where even putting Sam Hubbard inside, why not? Mm-hmm. He hasn't been the best on the outside. I know he's been coming back from injury, but I think we just need to switch things up a little bit sometimes. Because Ravens, it's gonna be Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. It's gonna be a bloodbath if we can't figure out this defensive line. So I'm hoping Chris Jenkins gets a lot more, percentage of those snaps as well, because you saw that run supports, today. It was super important. So I hope they just rotate a little bit more.
And I'll just say I'm excited to see Murphy back next week, Cedric Johnson, and I'm going to temper my expectations because I don't want to expect that these dudes come out and have a masterclass and sack Lamar 4 or 5 times. But I'm just excited because I want to leave that game looking at the edge rushers and saying, okay, one of those two, are potentially studs for this Bengals team in the future. So that, and then you have to change up the picture on Lamar, as Malik discussed before with how the Bengals have played Derrick Henry. They have shut him down in the past, but it's going to be this a whole different beast, Derrick Henry and Lamar. I think your best option, you have to change up the picture on Lamar Jackson. Quite frankly, I think you're going to have to play and trust your corners on the outside. Trust Dax Hill. I trust him right now, 101, to be honest. After this past week, after the past couple of weeks, the dude has played exceptional. And at some point in that game, you're going to have to load the box. You're going to have to play single high safety. You're going to have Dax on one side guarding Zay Flowers, and you're going to have to trust Cam Taylor-Britt. And I think that this is the matchup to do so. So I would be, if I'm Lou Anarumo, I would be changing up the photo, and I'd be blitzing the hell out of Lamar Jackson and say, hey, let's trust our corners. And I think that this will be a much better outcome on the corner side than it was this week. So,
well, I think it's helpful when you got a quarterback who, his biggest weapon in his arsenal is his ability to run the football versus actually passing. So, I mean, we'll see if the Bengals pass defense can not make Lamar Jackson look amazing, because they made Jaden Daniels look amazing. Hopefully they can get off the field. And I know a lot of people are kind of dreading that a little bit because of how they made Jaden Daniels looks. And if you can make Jaden Daniels look like that, what is Lamar Jackson to do to you? If you guys can do us a favor, we got over 150 people watching live. If you guys can do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications. We only got 46 likes. So we appreciate if you guys could just give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content. We'll be back live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to talk this win through a whole lot more, as well as break down week 4 of the NFL, get y'all caught up for fantasy football, for Monday Night Football, our best bets, and so much more. We appreciate y'all. We hope that y'all enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. And as always, until next time, who dat?